Good evening, everyone. We are live from Bates College in Lewiston, Maine. I'm Hayden Eckblum, and I'm here with Larry Cruz, and I'd like to welcome you to the Bates College Student Government Presidential Debate. The committee selection board has created the parameters for tonight's debate, and they have been agreed upon in advance by each candidate. This hour-long debate will cover 5 topic areas: campus safety in Title IX, student life, community involvement, tuition and transitions, and the purpose of student government. Each topic will cover about 10 minutes, with the last 5 to 10 minutes open to audience questions. The questions we ask tonight have been compiled by members of the Bates College community and the committee selection board. They have not been shared with any candidate beforehand. We ask that everyone remain silent during the entire duration of the debate to ensure that we are able to focus on everything each candidate has to say. And please note that the debate is being recorded to be shared with members of our community who cannot attend tonight.
For audience members, there's a Q&A option on the bottom of the screen, so put any questions that you may have for the candidates, and we'll hopefully get the ones that are most upvoted at the end of the debate. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening statement. We have chosen the order throughout a random number generator. And that means, Ali, you may begin, followed by Oyuka.
Hi everyone, thanks for everyone that came today, and thank you for everyone watching on the live stream. I'm Ali Manning. I'm part of the Cushion Alley campaign. I'm a junior at Bates. I am also an international student. I'm from Sydney, Australia. I have been a part of this community, in the BCSG community specifically, for 3 years. It's been an absolute joy and an absolute pleasure. I want to really badly keep doing it because I really believe in it. I really love doing it, and I believe in our campaign.
Do I go? Okay. Hello, everyone. First of all, I'd just like to thank everyone for coming out tonight, and also everyone watching at home. And before I start my introduction, I'd just like to say that my partner Manuel wasn't able to come today because he's acting in Antigonic, and he wanted me to say that he's gonna comment on Instagram later. You can follow us on @Oyuka Manuel 2022. Now, I am a freshman. I'm from Mongolia. My name's Oyuka Linden, and my running mate is Manuel Machado from Mexico. He's also a freshman, and we've both been a part of the student government in many ways. I'm a part of the Budgets and Clubs Board, and he has been the class representative this year. And we both wanted to be contributing to our community. We just want to give back because we love this community so much. And also, I just like to note that not as a candidate, but as a student, that if me and Manuel get elected, I would be the first ever Asian woman to be co-president of Bates College Student Government. I think that and I would only be the second woman of color. I think that as a liberal college, this was a shocking fact to me when I learned it a couple weeks ago. And I would just like to say that we, as Manuel and Oyuka, as our campaign, would like to break boundaries, shatter glass ceilings, and we're going to do that not only through being us, but also through our policies about mental health, about making laundry free at Bates to increase the accessibility and decrease the financial burden on students. And we would like to do things like increase campus security at Bates, etc. Thank you.
So we will begin with our first topic, which is on campus safety and Title IX matters. Parking is a hot-button issue on campus, something that the student government has tried to address many times, but there seems to be roadblocks to diverting success on this issue. Which steps and actions would you take to better address the parking crisis and excess fees on campus? Ali, you may begin.
I know that parking has been a big issue for many years, and I personally would like to see less cars at Bates. I think that with less cars, we can see a higher demand for transport for students. Not everyone has a car. Having a car is a huge privilege. It is also not great for the environment, and I don't think we need to be building more areas that house cars. I think that the Bobcat Express is a great resource, but I think that we can also be having other options. I think that the Bates bike rental program is great, but not a lot of people know about that. I think that we need greater exposure to things like that if we're going to get rid of cars. Yep.
I think there are two things to note here. First of all, what me and Ngo would do is to prioritize where students park. That is to say, if you live in a certain area, if you live in a certain dorm that's closer to parking spaces, it's easier for you to have certain spaces that are like loosely allocated towards you. Therefore, you don't take away parking spaces of other people who need it more. And I think that it's easy. Second of all, I think we could encourage students who don't necessarily use their car that often to leave their car back at home, things like that. Third of all, I think that it's important to note that we need to educate freshmen, especially like when coming to Bates, about parking rules and where you can park, because I know a lot of my friends have gotten random tickets because they were unsure where they can and cannot park, and I think that's something that would improve like their parking experience a lot.
Right, perfect. So for the second question, throughout the year, students have often turned to debate student and social media apps like Blind Tiger to discuss issues that would typically involve Title IX questions. Do you have any ideas on how you would advocate for students and create spaces for better dialogue and better understanding between students and faculty?
I think that the Bates Blind Tiger app came up for a reason, and I think that people are drawn to it because there's a lack of resources at Bates for kids to find anonymous ways to talk to other people and to be angry. And I think that when we started first using it as an outlet for sexual assault reporting anonymously, that made me realize that Bates is not doing a good job with Title IX, with CAPS, with any mental health resources. Unfortunately, there's always going to be a place for hatred on campus and hatred in the world and that sort of rhetoric, and that can exist, and it will exist, and unfortunately it will exist, but I don't think that the Blind Tiger is doing Bates students any good deeds at the moment. What was the full question?
Yep, I can repeat the question.
Thank you.
Throughout the years, students have often turned to debate student and social media apps like Blind Tiger to discuss issues that would typically involve Title IX. Do you have any ideas on how you would advocate for students and create spaces for better dialogue and better understanding between students and faculty?
So the Title IX system is not one that I'm a fan of. I know Kush is not a fan of it either. The bureaucracy of getting justice is absolutely ridiculous. Kush and I have been working with CAPS since the past 2 years to ensure that CAPS has a greater visibility among the student body, to ensure that people know what CAPS can offer to you, and we're working on getting that into FYCs so that students know exactly what they have. We're also working on, if dances will come back, to have CAPS officers and green dot training leaders and safe spaces during dances so that kids can find what they need when things are not great.
I think the very obvious thing to note at the top is that we should increase the amount of green dot training at Bates, because green dot training, at least for me as an average student, was talked about for the first week of Bates. It was highlighted and brought to my attention. But after that, if my friends wanted to get green dot trained, the amount of green dot trainings were just not there, and no one knew how to get them, right? I think the information is there, but allocating that information and targeting it to the people who need it is important. Therefore, we would have more kids who are green dot trained and who can help their friends, who can help fellow students, right? Secondly, we think that it's important for Res Life and first-year centers to be heavily involved. Why is this the case? Because in the first-year center, like how it's functioned right now, JAs are supposed to be there to support you, right? But in the status quo, as far as I know, JAs of my friends and like other JAs I know, not mine specifically, but they do not do their job thoroughly enough. They never talked about like the resources that their first years like students have with their first years. And I think improving that, I'm gonna be a JA next year, we can work closely with Res Life to improve that, to actually encourage JAs to be and have an accountability mechanism for them to ask their first years to if they actually did it, right? Thirdly, I think that through our campaign for mental health through the committee that we're going to be creating next year as co-presidents. We are going to be able to work more closely with CAPS. We're going to be able to take all the little resources that is scattered around campus, concentrate it into one thing, and make it more powerful and more accessible and equitable for all.
Are we allowed to respond to each other?
Any responses you have, you can incorporate into your closing statements.
Okay.
We're now going to move on to our second topic for tonight, student life. Our first question in this topic is, would you believe that the Bates community is an inclusive environment? And could you explain why or why not? Yuka, you may start.
Thank you. I think that the Bates community is a beautifully inclusive space that has problems that we can solve. First thing then on campus life, we believe that first of all, because of COVID-19, clubs have been heavily affected. Now, clubs that were previously gigantic and had a lot of members are powerless. They went from having 90 members to having 15 members, like the eco reps. So we believe that through our campaign to improve club life and revitalize club life at Bates, we can heavily improve that. What this creates is then people finding a space and belonging and inclusivity wherever they look for in their own interests, things that they used to do in high school, things that they like to do in their real life, and having actual representation with people that have the same interests as them. Secondly, we believe that in terms of representation, we are, through our mental health campaign, we're looking to work closely with affinity clubs, because in the status quo, we believe that although people talk about mental health, no one specifically caters towards the unique struggles of people within different affinity groups, and that's what we're going to be doing through our mental health campaign, and we're going to be increasing the inclusivity at Bates. Thirdly, we will be redistributing resources from places and clubs that don't necessarily use it efficiently to other people, to other clubs, to make it more inclusive, to encourage other clubs to have activities, to have things to bring people together. And yeah, thank you.
Can I hear the question again, please? Thank you.
Do you believe that the Bates community is an inclusive environment? Why or why not?
I think that Bates has the potential to be inclusive. I think that Bates has a lot of issues. I have also seen a lot of those issues being worked on and solved in the past 3 years. Something that I am particularly passionate about is finding a collective student space. I think that that's something that we've heard a lot of people talk about. Why is there no place for students to go hang out? Why can't we all come together in one student hangout spot? And the OIE is great. The OIE is fantastic. It's my home a lot of the times. And I believe that in last year's debate, the majority of the candidates did not know where the OIE was. So we need something that is already there and already accessible, somewhere that everyone already goes, which is Commons. And the Mobilize Commons mission that Kush and I have started is, I think, one that we should be looking forward to. By desegregating the space in Commons, we're able to bring students together from all grades, from all identities, and get them to eat together, talk, do work, watch sport away games, and just have a home. And I think that that's what's most important for students here, to have inclusivity, to have a home.
For the second question in student life, CAPS on campus has become overrun and is taking students weeks to get consistent appointments, which can lead to further deterioration of their mental health. How would you propose we increase the accessibility of CAPS and address mental health on our campus? Yuka, you may begin.
Okay, I think I have 3 main points to address this. The first of which is that we believe that what the past administrations have done to add 1 more therapist into CAPS is like a valiant effort, but we don't think it's enough. What are we going to do? As I've said, we're going to create a mental health committee that is student-led. That is to say, this committee is going to be with students who have personally gone through the experience of CAPS, who have personally experienced mental health issues. Therefore, they're able to know exactly what students who have struggled through that need, and allocate resources more equitably. Second of all, we would talk to CAPS people more specifically. We know that although CAPS resources exist, not everyone knows how to access those resources, and not everyone knows what resources exist, so we would just make it more common. Thirdly, we believe that through our campaign to increase this intercollegiate relations that we have with other NESCAC schools like Williams, Connecticut College, etc., we are able to leverage against the administration or the college to say that this is how other colleges do it, this is how other student governments do it, and we want the same resources because we believe that that's what our students who have mental health issues, who go through seasonal depression, who have academic burnout deserve. Yeah.
I think that this is a tricky question because it involves the well-being of students as well as the well-being of the workers at Bates. I don't think it's the students' responsibilities to be putting the work of CAPS on their back for other students. I think that there are some luxuries that we should enjoy at Bates, and one of those is mental health services. And so with the new director of CAPS, I'm really looking forward to increasing our relationship with him. The Rebecca, who was on BCSG, is doing a fantastic job, and she has been endorsed by the Cushionelli campaign, and she has done with us, and we're very excited to start talking about ways that we can increase CAPS accessibility. And one of those is a workers' issue, so that's why I'm personally, and I know that Cush is also in favor of the workers' union.
For our final question of the student life section, how will your administration ensure there is continuity of staff at the OIE, and what policies would you implement for more underrepresented students at Bates? Oyuka?
I think for the OIE, I have a lot of friends who work there. I know that one thing that is unique about the OIE is that it's a place where people collectivize, especially affinity groups, go to meet, and it's a home for international students like me, right? So the thing we can do is to have workers be continuously work in the OIE is to increase the activities that already exist once a day in the OIE, to make it a more welcoming space, to explain the worth of the OIE to other people, right? Because it's just meant to be an office for intercultural experiences where people can talk about their experiences and share them with people who either have gone through the same thing or want to learn about your experience, and that in itself is rewarding, right? Secondly, we believe that to make the OIE more accessible, to make things like Spark peer mentors for LGBT kids more accessible, we would increase the awareness of those workers. I believe that if more people are going to those mentors, it inadvertently increases the incentive for those workers to keep staying there because they feel rewarded. They feel like their work is actually seeping rewards, and yeah.
I think that the OIE is an incredibly valuable space, and I think that the Chase renovations is an opportunity for us to really get behind OIE reform and retention of OIE workers. When I was a first year, I was sitting in my FYC, and a Spark worker came in and told us that we could come for queer counseling, talking to someone, whatever it was, and I walked past that Spark office in the OIE all the time, and whenever I went there, they were incredibly happy to see me. And so I think that I would actually have to agree with Oyuka that students need to engage in the OIE in rewarding ways for the workers, and the workers need to be treated as such, and they are incredibly valuable. And the workers, over the past 3 years, I've seen plenty of OIE employees come and go, and I think it's incredibly upsetting. I think that we need to reform that relationship.
So our next section will cover community involvement. How do you plan to assist clubs in transitioning back to community involvement after COVID restrictions? And Ali.
BCB has created a fantastic clubs reform program where they are going to be personally talking to clubs, making sure that these clubs are active, making sure that the clubs have what they need, and also eliminating some of the clubs that are just inactive to create a quality over quantity type thing with clubs. And I think that we need to be giving clubs a lot of our budget resources. We don't give them enough. We have plenty left over that has not been allocated to them. So I think that they can do a lot with that.
Yeah, I also think that what the BCB is already doing is good, but I don't think it's enough. What we're going to be doing for clubs was like laid out in our Instagram post, 5 things. First of all, we're going to talk to the club leaders and who requested and learn about their position, because there are many clubs at Bates who are losing their members that are like potentially dying out. For example, the ballroom team, we're going to talk to each one, understand their issue, like even if we can't revive it, like learning about how they like decided to disband is important to like consider it for other clubs. Secondly, what we'd be doing is to increase the contact of clubs to their equivalent in other schools. What does this create? It means that even if your club has 5 students at Bates, you'll be able to talk to the same club at Bowdoin, and therefore you wouldn't be discouraged to lose your club. You would have more of an incentive to keep going, even if you feel discouraged by the amount of your membership. And as time goes by, if like clubs persevere, through our COVID like relief mechanisms, we're going to have more of a club life on Bates campus, and the clubs are going to be better that way. This is going to happen specifically through Manuel's project that he's already started to make stronger intercollegiate relations. And thirdly, what we'd be doing is we would specifically encourage clubs to make open house days where they would cater events towards attracting new members. This is something that is not done in the status quo. We would like to implement that. It would be something that we would encourage to do. Fourthly, we would like to bring back bi-yearly, yeah, I think that's the word, bi-yearly club fairs, where there would be another club fair at the beginning of the second semester. This means that juniors who are coming back, and also in like freshmen who want another opportunity, get the opportunity to find another club. Thanks.
Perfect. So our second question, do you have any larger plans for the general student body when it comes to pushing community involvement through the Harvard Center? Ali?
The Harwood Center is a fantastic outlet. I personally work through the Harwood Center for Bates Big Brother, Big Sister. I think it's an excellent program. I go and talk with an 8-year-old every Wednesday, and it definitely brings the life and joy back into you, and I think that a lot of people can definitely benefit from that at Bates. The Harwood Center needs more visibility. They need more of a voice. They need Bates students to know what they do, and they do a lot. So I think that Cushion myself will do everything that we can to ensure that they're being brought up.
I completely agree. I spent the last year working at the Harvard Center through the International Bonner Leader Program, and I'm also a part of the Bates Votes leadership team. I think that the Harvard Center, A, has a lot of good opportunities for you to reach out outside of the campus, and B, it has the opportunities for you to meet the amazing staff at the Harvard Center who have many different skills, many different outlets to guide you in terms of community engagement, in terms of other things that you may be interested in, and therefore it is an extremely useful resource for students to utilize. So what are we going to do about it? Firstly, what Manuel and I would go about doing is we would increase the visibility of the Harvard Center. There are many different programs and many different things resources that students can utilize, but they don't simply because they don't have knowledge of it. When I was applying to the Bates Votes leadership team, my friends didn't know that the application for that was being out, even if they may have been interested. So I think that there's a problem with visibility there. Secondly, I think that doing events, larger campus events that are catered towards volunteering in the greater Lewiston Auburn community is vital. Why is that? Because as a Bates student, you tend to conceptualize yourself and your life in the Bates bubble, and your homework and your exams become your priority. You seem nothing past that. And I completely understand that. And what we would do to break that conceptual bubble is to just have an event where you can serve your community for an hour, and that is inherently rewarding, and we're all good people, right? That would incentivize Bates students to reach out into the community more, be more of an active member in the Harvard Center. Yes.
Our fourth topic tonight is tuition and transitions. As you know, Bates tuition is increasing yearly. The price of commons has also increased, with off-campus students now paying $10 a meal as compared to $7 last year. As a president, what will you do to create more equity within the financial realm of Bates? Oyuka?
Thank you. What I would do in the first place, like, I completely understand the financial struggle. I'm personally a student who goes here on a full ride scholarship, on a full ride like financial aid, and therefore, I think that the problem is that when students, first of all, when they're going through personal financial hardships, not all students know about student financial services that are able to pay for emergency funds, and you can apply for emergency funds, and the process isn't actually that bureaucratic or difficult. And I think if we ask the Student Financial Office to make videos of how to actually access that, because even though it is there, the information just isn't like accessible to everyone. So simple things like Instagram videos make it more accessible to everyone. People can see, and when they will know what issues they can ask emergency funds for, they can know like what issues they can't do that for. Secondly, on food insecurity during breaks, I think that that is a problem for people who have no other choice to stay on breaks. I think that the first thing to note is that if your financial aid aligns with your need, then the college pays you like $500 for over winter break or something to get food. So I think the resources exist already. If there are subsets of students in the student body who do not get that right now, we would ask them to come to us when we become co-presidents, to have us communicate to them like what we can do to have them like direct them to the people they need to talk to, and spread that already existing resource to other students as well.
I think that this is something that we've discussed in our BCSG meetings, specifically this food insecurity issue, and I think that it's horrible that some kids have to sit in their room and debate over whether they want to go to Commons tonight and whether they want to spend that $10. And we have spoken at length with the financial team at Bates about the financial plan, which is usually 5 to 10 years in advance, which is why we see things increasing and increasing. But as Oyuka said, the Student Financial Aid Office is a place and is a resource for students to go out and get what they need to get. Kush and myself would highlight them. We would consider a partnership with them. We would consider a BCSG as a whole in a partnership to make sure that students know if they're in help that they can get it.
And for our last topic, we have the purpose of student government. What do you envision your role as BCSG president like? What do you see yourself doing, and what is the function of the BCSG president from your perspective? Allie.
I think that Kush and I have something that is unique to the Bates student body right now. And we are the only class, other than the seniors right now. Next year, we'll be the only class that knows what things were like before the pandemic. And I think that that is incredibly important because we know what needs to change if we want to try and get back to that. And we have extensive experience on the BCSG committee. I've personally been in facilities, I've been in student affairs, I've been in the academic athletics committees, and I've spoken with a lot of people. The relationships that I think that Manuel and Oyuka are building now are relationships that Kush and I have established for 3+ years. And we know that when we get a no, it's probably going to be another no and another no until it's a yes. We know how to be persistent, we know how to push. We've spent quite a fair bit of time having some not so fun conversations with a lot of people at Bates in administration, and we know when is enough, when are we going to get things done, and I think that that is what we have, that we can bring to the presidency, a real fight for students.
I think being the co-president of the student government for Bates for me would have two separate values. The first of which is the emotional value of being able to serve a community that has done so much for you, that has allowed you to transition from being half the world away and being homesick into finding a community. I think that means a lot to me. Secondly, for the practical value, Manuel and I also have years and years of student government experience in high school. We're currently working in the student government now, and we're creating relationships. And not only are we creating relationships, we're also working on changing things on the ground. Why does this matter? It matters because as we're in a pre-pandemic state and as we're transitioning into our new normal, we need a presidency or people who can stay in the student government for years. Manuel and I will be uniquely able to stay here for 3 more years. We'll be able to take the policies that we're going to newly implement next year and ensure that the peaceful transition of the policies that we implement are going to actually reach their fruitful ends, right? Why? Why is that important? Because policies, short-term policies are cool, but long-term policies require people to be there to know the end goal, and therefore we believe that even though we're freshmen and even though you may think that we lack experience, A, we don't lack experience, and B, the fact that we're freshmen is actually a huge advantage that can benefit Bates.
We are now going to give each candidate an opportunity to make a 2-minute closing statement, after which we'll open it up for questions from the audience. We'll begin with audience members who are in this room and then transition to online questions if we have time. Oyuka, would you like to begin your closing statement?
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to start my closing statement to a response to one of the main policy campaigns coming from Ali and Kush about Mission Mobilized Commons. 3 responses. First of all, I think that Ali and Kush did not consult the workers at Commons, because when we went to have a meeting with the vice president of Commons and Dining today, we were given a hard no to putting cushions or any other furniture revitalization within Commons. If we want to do that outside of Commons, there's a fireplace, right? And secondly, for music and live streaming, that's all good. We've had music before. We've had music over break. It can be done. There is literally no reason why you have to be president to do that. Live streaming, the same. I think that being president means that you talk to the trustees of the college. It means that you talk to Clayton Spencer. It means that you hold people accountable. It means you have actual practical solutions on the ground. So therefore, I would encourage everyone to look at our Instagram, look at the 6 policies that we already have out, and actually compare the steps in which we have to solve them. We have at least 4 steps. We're going to be solving all the problems that we identify at Bates, and Manuel and I have been debating together for a while. We are a good team. We know how to work under pressure, and we are going to be able to represent you through the skills we've gained through debate and through being friends for a long time. And also that would reflect the experiences that we've had, and it would reflect your wishes, because your wish would be our command, and we would fight for a better future for all of us.
Kush and I, from being in BCSG, have commitments, and we have projects that we've been working on for 3 years. When we were told that critical race theory or any sort of identity academic requirements would not be possible, like potentially what Commons, the Mobilized Commons mission, was not possible, we're getting it next year. We're in the works of it. We have got these things done with no's, with strict no's. We've gotten things done. We know how to get these things done because we have the established relationships, because we've been working on these things for 3 years. I think that Oyuka and Manuel would be fantastic committee members. I think that they have extremely strong ethics. I think that they run a great platform. But I think that what we're looking for are leaders. And I think Oyuka is right. These are people that will handle interpersonal relationships. And I personally believe that Kush and I are the best people for it. I'm literally could not want to do something more in my life than what I'm doing right now by running for co-president. I've been thinking about this since I was a freshman. Kush and I made a promise not to get ushy-gushy, but Kush and I made a promise on the top of Mount David that we would do this together. And I really hope that you support us in it. Thank you.
We are now going to move into the question and answer segment. You are perfectly allowed to pose a question to one or the other candidate, but each candidate will have a chance to answer every question that is posed. All right, so we're starting with audience members. Raise your hand. Does anyone have a question that they'd like to pose? We have any questions in the room? All right, then we will go to online question. Oh, we have a question in the back.
Not all at once.
Thank you. I have a question for both tickets. Well, thank you. First of all, I want to thank you for being here. I know it's not easy. I think you've run both a great campaign, and I wish you the best, whatever the result is. I hope you get involved in student government anyhow. My question is related to the structure of student government as such. By working this year as a co-president, I've experienced a lot of the institutionalization of student government, and how can that limit our role as activists too. So I was wondering how your platform is going to deal with that, sort of contradiction of being an institution that's part of the school that has to answer to administrators at the same time that you're working towards advocating student concern.
Something that I admired from the Marcos and Kush campaign was your push for a decentralized student government. And I think that the last thing I want to be is considered student admin or some kind of politician or person of authority. I want everyone that comes to BCSG meetings, whether they're presidents or reps or at-large reps or people coming because we have open meetings, for whatever it is, I want them to feel like their voice matters just as much as people sitting up here running for these types of things. And I agree with you, Marcos. I think that it can feel institutionalized, and I would love to see more of a reconfiguration of the reps. So the things that we're working on, instead of having academics reps, athletics reps, maybe we have reps for specific projects so that they then have as much time as they want to put their focus into a specific task and achieve that task, as opposed to having multiple tasks on their docket at a time. I think that we can spread the work out and get more work done if we have more people involved and more of a decentralized structure.
To the fact that people believe that student government is just like student admin, I say no. What we're going to do is we are going to make it clear that the student government is a channel for students to voice their concerns to the administration. What does this mean? It is not going to be just an institutionalized organization where there are different committees and we just talk amongst each other. We're going to invite specific students to talk about every single concern. If they want to have it raised to the student government, we're going to actively encourage that, and therefore their voices would be heard loud and clear. Secondly, we believe that as for the student activism and how to actually have activism, I think that through our campaign of making stronger intercollegiate relations, we would have more relations to student government. Therefore, we would see their specific activism. When we see their activism, we would have more power in terms of collective power to pressure both of our administrations, because we are united, because we're demanding the same things, and we have some sort of metric to show Bates administrations this is what other people do and this is how it can be achieved, and it is achievable.
A question from the stream online for both candidates. How would you hold yourself accountable to student voices and campaign promises once elected?
Kush and I were thinking about this when Kush and I sat down to talk about how his presidential campaign went. And I think that Kush ran a great campaign. I think that we need far more accountability for the people who are elected to be presidents. I want to do check-ins. I want to do more tabling. I want to do emails that go out. I want to do surveys. I want people to be as involved as possible and also as reflective as possible so that they know that if something didn't go right or if they felt like they weren't listened to, if they came to a meeting and there was no follow-up, that's a problem. We need to make sure that we're getting not just the initial contact, but the contact after that, the come around, so that they know that we're still thinking about them and that we still care.
For accountability, I think that we can do a lot of things. As we're going to be here at Bates for longer, we have more of an incentive to be accountable to our promises because we're probably going to want to run again next year, right? So that's the first thing. Second thing is that we would have things like anonymous forums where people feel free to completely voice their opinions, and we can make this public so that if a person has a disagreement or has feedback or any sort of criticism, they won't feel alone in it if multiple people have the same criticism, and therefore there would be emboldened to hold us accountable, right? Third thing is that I think that when people when candidates campaign, they talk about a lot of different things, but they don't actually do it on the ground. But what we would do is we would actually have different committees assigned to what we promised to do. And furthermore, I think that it's more likely for us to be accountable because we detailed our steps of how we're going to get there, and we have talked to the people in the different departments about the new policies that we want to implement next year. And as a last note, I would just like to say that for campus safety, it was a large concern for the year before, right? It was concerns about how students were being inappropriately treated by workers at campus safety, and it was a large a large part of Kush's platform. I personally, just as a first year, I didn't even know that was an issue. I've never heard student government talk about it. So in terms of spreading awareness, I think that that was just a little bit lacking. We would be more loud and clear about what the problems are and how we were going to address them.
Another question from the live stream for both candidates. How do you plan on continuing the work BCSG has done with campus safety to improve campus safety, especially considering the recent safety concerns on campus?
I think that's a great question. Can I go first?
Of course you can.
Okay, so me and Manuel have been heavily considering this. We know that, first of all, there have been cameras in Fry Street in one of the houses. We know that there were robberies in 280, and one of my friends who lives in 280 found BB gun pellets in her window. It's all very bad. Okay, so the thing that, one of the things that we're planning to do is that, first of all, we're going to talk to the workers who work in campus safety, and one problem is that students don't know what the role of campus safety officers are. Therefore, they don't know the limit to which and what campus safety officers can and cannot do, right? This specifically addresses the problems that occurred 2 years ago, but it means that we are going, to address this problem, are going to make things like videos on Instagram or videos on their website, things like that, to make it very explicitly clear what they're going to do, because students deserve that information. Second of all, what we would do is we would make campus safety more transparent. What does this mean? Me and Manuel have been checking over the last few days. Campus safety, if you go to the website, you cannot find the listing of the staff. You don't know who works there unless you go up there in person, which we did last Saturday, right? So we think that it's very important for campus safety to be transparent towards the students, and we believe that that would be improved. Thirdly, we would have things like invite campus safety officers to BCSG meetings when we are co-president, to have meetings with them to check on what they're doing, and not only have campus safety officers talking to us, we would have representatives of the broader Bates campus to talk to campus safety officers to demand specific things. Because when my friend had BB gun pellets in her window, she literally didn't know who to talk to. She called someone, she was directed somewhere else, but she just didn't know where to go from there, right? Therefore, I think that the communication between campus safety, should be improved.
I have spent quite a lot of time talking to campus safety, and I think that campus safety is an interesting one because I think that they mean well. I think that they want to do good. I think that Paul and the new director truly want to listen to students, and they came to one of our meetings the other day and gave us a pretty sincere and genuine talk about how they want to connect more with BCSG, and I completely encourage that. I think that a better relationship is the way to get to transparency. We can talk about wanting transparency. I spoke about wanting transparency 2 years ago, and we didn't get it until we forced our way into meetings with them. And I spent an entire summer talking to them. I spent a year waiting for them to get de-escalation training after following up. So I think that something that I know with my experience from my relationship with campus safety is that if you don't pressure them, that it's less likely for you to get progress out of them. BLC did a fantastic protest that I was a part of when I was abroad. I did some marketing materials for that. We got a lot of reforms, a lot of great things done, and I think that that can only be improved with Kush and myself.
At this point, we have no more questions from the live stream, so I'll open it up to the folks in here. Last chance if there are any questions that anyone has. Okay, if not, oh, yes.
This is more towards Ali, but both candidates are welcome to answer. How would you incorporate the wants and needs of Bates workers into your planned policies, such as Ali and Kush's mobilized Commons policy?
Kush and myself are massive supporters of the BASO movement. We think that the workers' union is a very good thing. We want to support it as much as we can. I know that we're still waiting on results from the past election, or what I'm not sure what you'd call it. But we have in the past done work with Bates workers about what they need and about what we want to do and how it would affect them. And we know those outlets, we know how to reach them, we know how to talk to them, and I think that we're incredibly considerate of their needs and desires.
For the union specifically, I know that Manuel was one of the most active members in student government when talking to the union. I know like stories of him like talking like in one of the meetings actively correcting Malcolm Hill, the dean of students, for saying something that's illegal. So we are already engaged in the student union, the workers union, and we think that for the workers union specifically, what me and Manuel support is to have a mechanism to make the wishes and demands of workers clear. That is to say, if they want a union or if they don't want a union, to support all of that, and we just want to make their demands like shown in terms of like the policies and institutions they're involved in.
Do we have any other questions from the audience members present? Last call. All set. Okay. Well, then I'd like to take the opportunity on behalf of Bates Student Government and Committee Selection Board and all the candidates to thank everyone who attended both in person and online tonight. We appreciate your attendance, your involvement. I strongly encourage everyone to vote in the presidential election and also for your class reps. Thank you very much and have a nice night.